Hello and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us, and especially to my patrons and channel members. We have two guests today and a co-host. Jenni Morgan has agreed to be my co-host, partly because I've got thunderstorms going on here, and if my internet goes out, Jenni's going to take over for us. So thank you for helping me out, Jenni. And guests I have today are Karlana and Andy Hammond. Welcome, Karlana and Andy.
Welcome. Actually, Andy's our last name is different than because I had my maiden name on my site, so it's actually Andy Reek.
Oh, okay.
Karlana and Andy Reek. So
okay. All right. Carl, which one of you wants to start with? Okay, let me introduce the topic first of all. Our topic for today is satanic influence in our culture. And Karlana and Andy want to tell us how Satan is causing people to, I don't know what. You go ahead and tell us what it is that is the problem.
Power on.
Andy?
Bluetooth.
What?
Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah. Did you want to say anything, Karlana, or how do you want to?
Well, I'll let you start it out since you agreed to be on here. Andy was gracious enough to agree to assist me. So I'm going to let him say what he needs to say, and then we can just take it from there.
I just thanks for having me on the show. I think that a lot of the things that, of course, I know you're not, you don't believe in God, so you probably don't believe in Satan either. So that would be, this may be, something that you're just kind of not, that you wouldn't even, agree to or whatever, or see. I just think sometimes there is an agenda that seems like it's gotten over time has tried to destroy families and different things, and there may be some kind of an satanic agenda to it.
Why do you think there's I assume you're talking about a literal devil, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and is this devil a person?
Yeah, he's a created being.
Okay. Is this
he was
person
created by God, and
is this person omnipresent?
No, he's not.
Okay, so whatever he does, he can only do in one place at one time.
Yeah, he's got, his helpers, his demons, I guess, that help out, that do different things. So, that's, I think that's how he functions.
Okay. And all of these, the devil and all of these helpers, they're all invisible, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So why do you think they exist, all these invisible evil beings?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of things that exist that we don't necessarily see. And I think, that there are evil influences in the world, and that, is a possible explanation, part of it, not necessarily all of it.
Okay, so you're saying that because evil exists, therefore an evil being has to exist in order to make that evil?
Yeah, I would think so, possibly.
Okay, so humans have nothing to do with it. It's Satan.
No, I think humans do have something to do with it. I think they cooperate with the evil.
And how do you determine which portion of the evil is caused by humans and which portion is caused by demons?
Well, that's hard to tell. I mean, it could be that, the demons give the idea maybe, and the humans carry it out, and maybe, feed on it. I mean, take it further. I don't know.
So evil ideas don't come from humans. They come from demons.
Not necessarily. I mean, they could come from humans also.
Okay. And how would you tell whether an idea came from a demon or from a human?
Well, I don't know that, that there's a concrete way.
Okay. So how do you know that such a thing even exists if there's no way to measure it?
Well, I mean, it wouldn't
if you have no moral compass and you're an atheist, what's your sense of right and wrong? We go back to that.
Okay, but you've made two assumptions there. You said if you're an atheist and you have no moral compass. I don't know any atheists that don't have any moral compass. I do know a Christian that has no moral compass, David Wood, and he's quite vocal about it, that he has no moral compass.
I'm not familiar with him, but
Oh, he's the psychopath that tried to kill his father with a hammer and went to prison and then was converted to Christianity in prison. And he's now a minister. And he, in a debate with Matt Dillahunty, said that the only reason he doesn't kill people is because God tells him not to. And Matt Dillahunty said, of all people, I hope you always believe in your God for the sake of, those of us who don't want to be murdered. But that's a man that has absolutely no moral compass. If it wasn't for a God telling him, don't murder people, he says he'd go out and murder people. To me, that's no moral compass.
well,
Do you
yeah,
think that's an extreme example?
I would agree that's an extreme example, but are there any atheists that have no moral compass? Name me an atheist that has no moral compass.
What I'm questioning is, if you don't go by some kind of guideline and believe in a God, you yourself are determining what you think is right and what you think is wrong. You're not
Okay,
taking guidance from anybody else. That can get you in
that's
a
not
lot of
true.
trouble.
That's not true. Just because I don't take guidance from a God doesn't mean I don't take guidance from anybody. God isn't the only person, there are plenty of people that exist on this world. Would you agree with that?
I would agree with that, but I am very reluctant into whom I seek to get my guidance.
Okay. Do you think that slavery is morally acceptable?
No, we've talked about this before. No, I don't. And
Okay.
I don't really
But
follow your reasoning on that, but
okay, but your God thinks that slavery is morally acceptable. If you take your morals from your God and your God says that slavery is morally acceptable, why do
where
you
does
say
God
that
say
it's
that
not?
it's morally acceptable? I
It-
know slavery is
He
mentioned in the
commands people
Bible.
to take slaves. He tells them
Slavery is mentioned
specifically.
in the Bible. There was a time where that there's been a lot of slavery. It's recorded in the Bible because it happened. Um, but
There are
I
there
don't
are
know
numer
that.
there are numerous passages in the Bible where the supposed God tells people that you will do this and this, and you vanquish these people, you will take their relatives or children or something as slaves.
Right.
It's in several locations.
In Numbers 31, he tells the people to go and kill everybody except the girls who are virgins. He tells, kill the infants, kill the boys, kill the old, kill everybody except the virgin girls, take those for your slaves. And they do. If that is morally acceptable to you, I question your moral ethics. And Angie Dell poses a really good question here. Why do you need guidance? Can't you think for yourself?
Well, I mean, a lot of people think for themselves, and I would say some people think wrong, or I
I
mean,
would
like the
agree
guy,
with you
like
there.
the guy you just mentioned that said he wouldn't go kill people because his God tells him not to. But if he was thinking for himself, he probably would be.
Okay.
okay,
So I would say I would question his reasoning to be able to make moral decisions.
I would agree with you there. Not everybody is as well versed in making good moral decisions as everybody else. Some
and
people are better at it than others.
this goes back to what I've said before. People now think, because they're so evolved and so intelligent and so superior, they are their own God. They can make all their own choices. They have no accountability for those choices. And this is what is very scary to me, because this is the time that we're in right now. And we all have to answer. I know people don't want to believe that. I know people on here, if they think there is no higher being, they think there is no one to answer to. But I truly believe in my heart and soul that we will all be accountable to God. And it scares me to think that so many people have no fear, have no concern at all, because I feel that that day is coming, and there's going to be a lot of people that do not want to see that day happen.
When's that day going to come?
I can't say. I don't know. That's why I feel like we all need to be ready.
The Apostle Paul thought it was coming in his lifetime. And here we are 2,000 years later, and it still hasn't happened. We have a question for you from Frankenstein. Tell me how God is not a misogynistic secret agenda.
I think I've spoken on this before when you were saying, you know, you need the proof and you need the evidence, and that you've disproven certain things that couldn't have possibly happened. I know in my heart and soul there's a God. I'm a believer in God. I put my faith in him. As far as to say that it's an agenda, I do think there are certain religions that maybe operate on fear. I don't deny that. I don't deny that there are wrong things happening in the church, just like there are wrong things happening everywhere in the world. But I feel like that, I had said this before, our world and our country, God help us, it's such a darker place than what it's been. And people want to talk about progress and inclusivity, and the things that are happening in the schools now, that alone is.
You mean the gun violence? People going and shooting
No,
up schools?
I don't mean the gun violence. I mean the putting all this agenda in for kids that don't even, young elementary age kids, and it's sexual things. And to me, it's sexual grooming. And
Hold
it's under.
it. Let's stop right there. You think teachers are grooming children? Is that what you're telling me?
I think in some instances, yes, that is
Okay, and
what
what are
is happening.
teachers doing that is grooming children?
They are putting material in the classrooms for children before they are ready to learn. It's sexual content, and they're putting it under the guise of, well, we're being inclusive. We want all kids to feel welcome.
Okay.
And to me, it's a sneaky way of saying, this is why we're doing it. They're explaining that that's the reason why they're doing it. But to me, that's not the real reason why they're doing it, because
So you think the teachers are out to molest the children? That's
I think
their agenda?
I think some of them, yes. Now, I'm not
Okay.
saying all
Do
of
you
them.
think the teachers determine the material that they present to the students?
I think, yes, some. And the thing that we have to look at in today's world too is, if this person is an activist, then we know what they're pushing. And
Okay.
a lot of
Support
teachers
your
now
claim.
are
Support your
activists.
claim. Show me what percentage of activist teachers are grooming children.
I don't have statistics on that.
Okay.
That's
But
because there are no
What-
statistics for that.
That's right.
okay, so Jenny, what do you think that children that are in third, fourth grade, even fifth grade need to be taught and read books that are about LGBTQ? Do you think
Yes,
that is,
yes, I absolutely do.
for what reason?
Because there are LGBTQ people out in the world, and they need to understand them as much as anything else.
Why does it need to be taught in a public school? That's something that doesn't need to be in the school.
Because that's where we learn things.
But sexuality does not need to be taught. Gender does not need to be taught in the public school. That should not be in the school, period.
All right.
You cannot depend on ignorant parents to provide that sort of education.
I think it's ignorant parents that are saving their children. That's what I think. Parents that you would deem ignorant are the ones that are.
Do you actually believe that somebody can talk another person into being gay or talk them into being transgender?
I actually believe that there are children now that are being pressured, absolutely 100%, that are being pressured by their peers, by society, to transition to the other sex. I do believe that, and pressured by their parents also. There are some parents, for whatever reason, that the child shows the slightest inclination of having any traits of the opposite sex, and they're all aboard this transgender movement. And I think it's horrifying.
Let's pretend what you just said is actually true. What goes on with this parent? You say the parent reacts instantly, radically. What do they do?
Well, from what I'm seeing on social media and other information that I'm seeing and reading, if you have a child that is not gender specific, is that the correct term? If you have a boy that has feminine qualities and acts like a girl or wants to have things that are considered more feminine, then instead of letting that child express that feeling, then it's like, okay, well, you have enough qualities that you act like a girl, so let's just make you a girl.
I've never heard a parent say anything even close to that, ever, period. You're making this up in your mind. It's not true.
Why am I seeing documentaries and different programs and different information that reflects
For,
that?
for the same reason that people have been manipulating media and fooling people like you for generations and generations.
Yep.
I dispute that. There is a social media, I won't say the guy, but there is someone, I
Matt
think from
Walsh.
I love Matt Walsh.
Matt Walsh
I
is a
think
fool and
I
is
thank God for
undereducated and highly opinionated, and
I
he's
thank
very
God for
fascist.
Matt Walsh. Matt Walsh is doing this country. He's doing amazing things for this country, and I thank God for him. I
He is
pray
a
for
white
him.
supremacist.
Well, regardless of your opinion of him, I think he's doing great things, and he's a very brave person to speak out, and I'm thankful for him. I really am.
It's a shame people like him exist.
But I see now that's not a loving, kind way to feel about him. If
I
we're
never
on
said I
here,
was loving Honey Bunny.
Why do we have to love Matt Walsh? I don't feel like we have to love
well,
Matt Walsh.
because you're tolerant. Isn't the left tolerant? But you
There's a
preach
difference
tolerance.
between tolerant and love. I can tolerate someone without loving them. I
Okay,
also don't need to tolerate someone who's out there spreading hate speech, who's wanting to erase the existence of a certain group of people. I don't think we should tolerate them. There are some things that are just intolerable, and
let,
wanting to wipe out people, that's intolerable.
let's talk about intolerable. Let's talk about the New York Gay Pride Parade. Let's talk about that.
Okay, before we do that, if you want to speak on tolerance, I want you to tell me what you know about the tolerance-intolerance paradox.
Tell me about it. Enlighten me.
Okay, so you've never heard this. And you're speaking of tolerance and you don't even know what that is?
Explain it to me.
I am going to. The tolerance-intolerance paradox basically states, and I'm going to really reduce this because it's pages and pages long, says that if you have a tolerant society and they don't watch their level of tolerance, they will soon be allowing the intolerant to they will tolerate the intolerant, and as that goes on, the intolerant becomes intolerant of the tolerant, and you completely flip-flop the entire society to a very evil, nasty, bad thing, which is what we saw happen in Germany.
Right. And that's what I see now is a lot of evil, and it's evil toward the children, and that's what really has me concerned, because it's one thing if consenting adults want to carry on in this way. My point I was going to make about the New York Gay Pride Parade was they're chanting, "We're coming for your children. We're coming for your children." Now, why would a group of people that want acceptance and they say they want the same rights as everybody else, that is a provoking thing to say. That is an evil thing to say. And what was the reason for saying that? Why would you say that?
To provoke you.
Is that a loving
because
gesture?
No, it's not. It's a provoking gesture. And the reason that it's done is because we have been sitting here since 2015 having people of your ilk tell us that we have to die, that we have to be taken off this planet because your false storybook tells you that we're wrong, which, by the way, is quite incorrect.
By the way, let's get this correct and let's be respectful. I have never wished anyone dead. No one, not even people that totally disagree with me, people that I don't admire their lifestyle. So do not tell me that I have wished someone dead when that is not true. I do not appreciate that.
Do you want to ban trans affirming care for children?
Yes.
Then you want people dead.
No,
Because
I
that's
think that
exactly what that
I
does.
think um, a lot of people, they say that. I think a lot of these people that are real young that are kind of talking or transitioning, if they live to regret it. I mean, if you're an adult or if you're full mental capacities and you want to transition, that's one thing. But when you have a 3-year-old that you're saying, oh, we're going to, you want to be a girl now and you're a boy, I think that's taking it a little too far. At least, I
Okay,
mean,
and what do people do for a 3-year-old that wants to transition? What do they do?
well, I mean, do they start putting them on, or maybe not 3-year-old, but maybe do they start putting kids on hormone blockers? I mean,
No,
is
they
that,
don't.
and
I've
There's
heard
so,
that
no
they
reason to
do.
put the only time you ever put a 3-year-old on puberty blockers is if the 3-year-old is experiencing precocious puberty, which is exactly what puberty blockers were invented for and have been used for over 20 years. Because there are children that start showing signs of puberty at a very young age when they are not ready to handle it. So doctors put them on puberty blockers to pause the puberty and cause it to wait until they're old enough. If a 3-year-old child is a girl and identifies as a boy, they can wear boys' clothes. That's about as far as they can go.
Let me ask this question. Why are there so many more gender affirming clinics now for children, or these hospitals, whatever you want to call them, that butcher these kids? Why are there so many
Okay,
more now?
name one. Name even one place that is doing gender surgery on children. Name one.
Didn't Matt Walsh find a place? Didn't Vanderbilt? Didn't he investigate them?
I
No,
didn't.
he didn't. He lied about that
And how do you know he lied about that?
because I check what he says because I don't trust him.
So name
Matt Walsh is only interested in how much money he can make off this whole thing. Don't you
That's
realize
what the
that?
gender clinics are doing, are making money off these kids, which is
Oh,
the lowest.
stop it. Stop it. Do you know anybody who works in a gender clinic? Have you ever known anybody who's worked in a gender clinic? Have you even ever known somebody who's transgender?
How much money does it cost to keep your hormones going if you transition to the opposite sex? I'm sure it's a lifetime commitment of drugs, and that takes a lot of money. Is that not true?
Like insulin, huh?
I'm just posing a question. I'm not on here to be hating anybody. I feel like that last time we were nicer to each other. So
You're
I'm not
you're
on here.
you are spouting mythology.
I don't believe that. Andy, what
Well,
are your
you
thoughts?
are.
well, I think it's easy to be tolerant of people we agree with. And I think this is kind of what I see is, when we're, with people we agree with, we're tolerant, and those we don't agree with, we're not tolerant of. And I think it's both, it seems sometimes it's on both sides. I heard some intolerant, things here. Well, we want to provoke people. We want to, and then I think that, so everybody's preaching tolerance, but we're only tolerant for our own point of view.
We keep changing the subject as a comment. What subject are we supposed to be on?
Well,
I'm on.
Jenny asked you the question about gender clinics, and the response we got was about people being tolerant. Yeah, I would call that changing the subject.
Okay, from what I've seen when I briefly looked, there are gender clinics everywhere in all
There are gender
states.
clinics. That is true.
Okay. Did there used to be gender clinics in all states? Did we used to have the phenomenally high number of children that are changing their sex that we do now? Did that used to exist
That's
even
right. Let
10
Jenny
years
answer that.
ago?
Jenny knows
Kel,
far more
let
about
me
this
mention
than I
that.
do.
How many transgender people are in the population, are in any given population by percentage?
I am not sure. I do not have that information.
Well,
It's
that
less.
would be about 0.7%.
Well, how do you explain?
Texas passing all their nasty laws about transgender people, and particularly in sports and in bathrooms. How many transgender people are they writing all those laws about?
I do not know.
One.
Sorry, we've got thunderstorm alert.
Ah, okay,
Sorry, we just got thunderstorm watch.
okay.
Well, I certainly respect that. I have one of those myself.
Yeah, we've had some kind of crazy weather here, but um, I just know that from my concern is from the viewpoint of what it's doing to children. You
Okay.
know, that's
And
where I
that's
come from. And as a parent and as a concerned citizen of the world, if it would be one thing if I felt like all this stuff was more geared toward adults and they can more fend for themselves. But when I feel like it's the blood of innocent children, that's what gets me.
How many
Just
doctors have you talked to about this?
I have not,
How
but
many
I can.
psychologists have you talked to about this?
I have not, but I have seen
Okay.
what some of these
Are
people
you
say.
aware that the American Medical Association, the American Academy of Pediatrics, and the American Psychological Association, all three major branches of the medical associations, all agree that gender affirming care is good for transgender children? Were you aware of that?
I am aware of it, and it's devastating to me. And where is
Were
this
you
coming from?
aware that in Arkansas, the court not only knocked down the law that they made banning gender affirming care, but they did it with a finding of, they had 430 findings based on the medical evidence that was presented in court. And they found that the laws banning transgender care were discriminatory and they were harmful to children. Were you aware of that?
I wasn't aware of that, but what you call harmful to children and what I call harmful to children are
I'm
completely
talking about what
different
doctors call
things.
harmful to children. This
Okay,
is a medical issue. And if you think that you know more than the doctors, please tell us where you got your medical degree.
okay, let me tell you this. You can say this and you can say this is a medical issue, but when I say God help our country, I mean it. A lot of these physicians are activists and they're pushing this agenda. And if people do not want to recognize that and see it for what it is, that it's too
So
bad because
all the doctors in the country, they're all in on this big conspiracy to get your money because they know that this isn't real. And so they're prescribing medication and stuff that's bad for kids. They're prescribing, various treatments for kids that's bad for them because they're all out to make money.
that's kind of what it seems like. It's profitable,
Do
isn't
you
it?
go to a doctor?
Sometimes.
Why? If you think doctors are just in it for the money and they're just going to prescribe you drugs so that they can make money and they don't care about your health, they don't care about you, why would you go to a doctor if that's how you feel about doctors?
I did not say that all of them are in it for the
You
money.
said the vast majority.
I feel like there is a high percentage of them that are in it for the money. And I feel
no.
like they don't really care about the children. They get them on these drugs. There's a lifetime commitment to the drugs, and that is profitable for the pharmaceutical companies, and it is profitable for the physician slash activist. That's what I think.
I see my doctor once a year. My copay is $35. How rich is she getting off of me, huh?
But do you not have a commitment to take, for the rest of your life, certain pharmaceutical products? Is that not what you have to
No,
do?
not for the rest of my life. No.
So
Trans women have menopause as well.
so you don't have to stay on drugs. You don't have to stay on pharmaceutical products.
No.
Oh, I thought that you would. I thought there was a commitment to stay on them.
As long as it would be prescribed in the individual's case, yes, you do stay on them. But at some point, in trans women's case, I can't speak to trans men. I don't really know. You get to a point in your age where you would normally reach menopause. Well, we're put through that just like you are. We have all the
Okay,
hot flashes and all the other things that are just no damn fun.
right. Andy, I haven't heard from you for a while.
Well, you all were talking, so I was just you talk about the American Medical Association stuff. Wasn't homosexuality used to be considered a mental illness?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah, it
and
was in the
so
1950s before they knew any better.
well, and I mean now, we have now. What's to say, 30 years from now that all of a sudden they'll come back and say, oh, maybe this wasn't the best treatment. That
because the
there's a lot of
numbers show them that is the best treatment. There are
the numbers must have showed them something back in the 50s too. So
yes, they did. How long has transgender or transgender people been treated medically?
I'm not for sure.
Since 1920. That means we have been around in the professional modern medical age for 100 and some odd years. Back in the 50s, there was a big celebrity that came to America, or was an American who went over to Denmark and had sex change surgery, as it was called then. Christine Jorgensen, ever heard about her?
No, I haven't.
Okay, she came, I think it was 1952, if I'm correct, if I'm remembering correctly. She was a big sensation. Oh man, they gave her all sorts of privilege. They took her on every darn show. She got a singing career going, a writing career going, all sorts of different things. And she was one, and there were dozens and dozens and dozens of people who went through the same thing, but only one got mentioned.
John Hunter asks a good question. Where's the motivation for the National Health Service doctors? How do they fit into the money? Now, John Hunter isn't from this country, and transgender care is not only a thing in the United States, and the United States is the only country, the only developed country that does not have socialized medicine. So why is there gender affirming care being provided in all the countries where healthcare is not a for-profit industry if the only purpose for it is for profits? That's a very good question, John Hunter.
Well, I would say there's still money being made. The government's, paying for it, instead of the insurance companies. So, I mean,
so you're saying
those doctors aren't working for free. I mean, they are being paid, I would assume, even in the countries that have, centralized health care.
If a doctor is going to make up an illness and give people medication, wouldn't it make more sense to say that you had cancer and then give you cancer medications? I mean, those are a lot more expensive. They get a lot more profit off of those.
Let me go back to this question that I've posed before. Do you feel like our country right now is in a good place? Do you feel like
no,
it's in a terrible place?
That's
now,
right.
What has contributed to that?
Christians saying that we should get rid of gay people, saying that we should get rid of health care for transgender people, Christians saying that we don't need gun control. I see that the conservative movement as being the greatest threat to this country.
So you're blaming it all on the Christians and their values and
Not entirely, but
Do you know that years ago this country was founded on Christian morals and values? No one wants to recognize that now.
You are 100% wrong on that point.
They believed in a God, but they did not believe in Christianity at all. In fact, Thomas Jefferson wrote his own version of the Bible, correcting all the BS in it.
Not only that, look at our laws. What's the first commandment? The first commandment is you shall love the Lord your God and him only, or you shall love the Lord. I'm mixing it up. Sorry. But anyway, the first commandment is to worship God and God alone. That is not in our law. The second commandment is to remember the Sabbath and keep it holy. That is not in our law. The third commandment is against blasphemy. That is not against the law. A fourth commandment is not to make graven images. That is not against the law. Now, the next one is honor your father and mother. We don't have any laws saying that you have to honor your father and your mother. Next, we
Granny,
have do not
are,
lie, do not steal, do not commit adultery, and do not murder. Okay, those
Granny,
four. Just a minute, let me finish.
are you telling me that 40% of the 10 commandments have only to do with God wanting his ego stroked?
Yes, yes. Okay, and number 10 is thou shalt not covet. Our entire economy is based on covetousness. Our entire economy is based on causing people to want things so that they will buy more things. That's what a capitalist economy is. So don't tell me that our country is based on the Bible when 5 of the 10 commandments are against our law and one isn't even mentioned.
Who wrote the parts of the Bible that tell me where do you think in the Bible it speaks out against gay people or transgender people?
Where'd I put my phone? Sorry. I'm
That's quite
sorry.
all right. I'll repeat the question, not a problem. Where in the Bible does it say that God hates transgender people?
It doesn't say it in the Bible, and I don't hate transgender people. I don't hate any of you guys, even the ones who are saying bad things about me, and even the ones who say they hate Christians. I fear for your souls, and I know you guys want to mock that and think that I'm some kind of a believer in make-believe, but that's not how I feel. And
Well,
I can't, I have to live my best life, and I have to try to be as kind and loving to as many people as possible. And that is not an easy thing to do.
I'll grant you that. I'll grant you that.
That's what, and when I feel like my rights are being invaded, that's what sets me off a little bit. And I feel like when you're taking people that are innocent and you're changing what their life could be and indoctrinating them from an early age.
Okay, let's stop there because you're bringing up lots of different things, and I'd like to be able to address them rather than skipping over and only being able to get things here and there. First of all, you said that you feel that your rights are being infringed on. What rights of yours are being infringed on?
Okay, let me tell you. I do not think any public school anywhere or any Christian school anywhere should have a gay pride flag anywhere inside the building, outside the building, should not be present. That is not.
Now, if they do, how does that infringe on your rights?
It is putting something in front of me that I have to look at, or that the child has to look at, that you're pretty much, to me, if it's there, it's kind of like saying that you're okay with it.
And you're not okay with it.
And I'm not okay with it.
Okay.
That doesn't mean that now then people will come back and say, well, you have a thing that you don't like gay or transgender people. It's not about that. It's about Pride Month has gotten so off the rails. It has become, it seems like it becomes worse every year. And there's more nudity. There's more, just like this thing in New York recently with the chanting. It's frightening to me. I feel intimidated by it. And why should I, as a person who has rights like anybody else, it's like we're here, we're taking over, and you have to be okay with it. And if you're not okay with it, you're homophobic, you're transphobic, you're a hater, you're a mean Christian person. And I don't feel like I'm any of those things.
And yet,
it's generally best that the person who's being oppressed to define how they're being oppressed. Okay.
So you're asking me how
your hatred of the rainbow flag. Did you know that the rainbow flag was created and included all people on Earth as its intent?
I did not say. There again, people are wanting to put words in my mouth, and I don't appreciate it.
That was a question. That was not a question.
I did not say that I hate I did not ever say that I hate the rainbow flag. I did
Okay,
not
fine.
make that statement. I do not like the rainbow flag, and I do not like it in my face, and I do not like anybody telling me. I try to take the word of God and lead that toward, let that lead my life. But anyone else telling me these are things you need to adhere to, and if you don't, the reason that people are labeled bigots and homophobes and transphobics is because then you have the control. You control the narrative. And if you call me that, I'm so afraid of you calling me that and thinking that other people think that of me. So I'm going to go along with things that maybe I otherwise wouldn't go along with. I think that's what's happening in our country now. I think people are afraid to speak out. Everyone wants to talk about the marginalized groups. Well, you don't think Christians ever feel like we're a marginalized group?
You
I know
are
you
not
do.
a marginalized group. You are the majority by 3/4 versus 1/4. Okay.
Do you
Right.
think it
can
feels
never
that
be
way
the.
to me now in the world the way it is? Do you think it feels that way to me now?
It
I
certainly
feel.
should.
Do you think it's easy for me to come on here and say these things? Do you think it's easy for me to do this?
Do you think it should be easy for you to come on here and say this?
Yes, because I'm
Why?
just as entitled to my opinion as you are to yours. Do you think you're more important than I am?
No, I'm equal to you.
Well,
And
it seems like you.
and the folks
It's
on your side of the discussion are trying to make me go away. I didn't say you. I said folks on your side of the discussion are trying to make me go away forever.
so.
Mhm.
Let me ask you this: do you not think that I can love you and care about you as a person, and know in my heart, at least from my perspective, that maybe you're not doing what's best for your life, but that doesn't mean that I want you to just disappear or that I want bad things to happen in your life. It's
No,
because I want
but it does
it's
say that you want to control my life.
Mhm.
but you don't think you want to control mine?
I don't want to control yours. You're free to be a
Okay.
Christian all you
Did
want.
you just tell me that you think that kids in elementary school should be exposed to LGBTQ teachings?
Yes.
Isn't that controlling my life and the life of my kids?
No, that's educating
How is it
them.
not?
Because education can be offered, it's taken in, and then it's either kept or it's rejected by the person who receives it.
It's normalizing a lifestyle is what it's doing, and it's
It's not a
indoctrination.
lifestyle, it's how people are born.
I still have difficulty with believing that.
Okay, what do you know about the hormone flushes in gestation?
I don't know a lot about that.
Okay, well, that is really important to know something about. Okay, there's two hormone flushes as a child is developing. First off, early in the pregnancy, a fetus will be exposed to large volumes of the hormone that their genetics supposedly are authorizing or creating, making happen. Okay, let's say it's a little boy, and they're given this rush of testosterone as a fetus. Okay, that's going to do what's known as differentiation, where the genitals, which are completely unformed and nonspecific at that time, begin to take their final form of a male or a female genitalia. Okay, so that's sex. Gender happens much, much, much later in the pregnancy, when the fetus gets another hormone wash that basically programs the brain. And for those people who have difficulties with, say, their SRY gene, or and so I won't get technical on that, with some of their genetics, they are not particularly sensitive to testosterone. Okay, now that means they're going to be exposed to estrogen, and when you have a developing brain in the womb and it's exposed to estrogen, it becomes female. So now you have this person who has male genitalia, but a female mind. Okay, gender is in the mind.
No,
Yes,
no.
yes.
You are what you are born. You have a male part or you have a female part. It is
That's right.
determined by
You have
God.
male or female genitals. You are not a male or female because of your genitals. You're a male or female in your head.
Why would you be spreading?
Your brain
You're
is your
spreading
number
things that
one.
are not true. That is
It
so
Your
untrue.
absolutely is true.
your
So
brain
many
is your
people are
number one
believing
sex
that.
organ. Your brain is your
No,
number one sex organ.
not true. How long have we believed this? How long has this been a trendy thing to accept and believe? It's not
This isn't
true.
a trendy thing to accept
I
and
know that I
believe.
learned about it about 50 years ago or more.
So perception's reality. Is that right?
No,
No,
That's what you're saying. If you say
no, it's
you
not.
feel, so if I feel or identify like something, that's what we're saying in today's world. If I feel it or identify as it, that's my reality and that's what I am.
No,
maybe.
not
Scary thoughts.
necessarily.
Not true at all.
So what would you do with a kid that say, oh, around the ages of 4 or 5 years old, was into playing with Barbies, and say by this continued on in their life because the parents didn't really know what to do with it, and so they just kind of ignored it, that it would go away. But then sometimes around 7 or 8, the kid suddenly had access to dresses in their size, and they started wearing those, and putting a towel around their head because it can pretend it's long hair. And that you got really upset about, and you punish the child within an inch of their life, for whether it's emotionally or physically. But that child, even though you then from that point on kept trying to make him be a man by making him do things like baseball and fishing and hunting and all these manly kind of things, but it never changed. And when that kid hits their 20s, they say, I'm out of here, because what you're trying to make me is not what I am. So now you got this person who has known who they are since they were 3 or 4 years old. And it has not gone away, no matter how much the parents have tried to make it go away, because it's how they were born.
And you don't think there's help for these people other than mutilating the body of young children? You don't think there's psychological counseling?
Prior to the modern medicine treatments of transgender people in back in pre 1920s, yes, they tried as hard as they could to counsel people out of feeling trans. They tried to use shock therapy on them. They tried to use hydrotherapy on them. They tried to use all kinds of really, truly horrible things in mental institutions. Sometimes they got locked up in a mental institution and not ever get out. Okay? And when finally medicine realized, this ain't working. And some scientist somewhere had the intelligence to go, what if we instead of trying to make the mind fit the body, we make the body to fit the mind, because that's what the person's expressing they want. And when they do that, they find that the person, all their psychoses, all their depressions are all alleviated, and you have suddenly a happy person.
Right.
So is that the ultimate? Is that what is the most important? Is to always feel like that you're, sometimes you
Good
have to
mental
go.
health is the ultimate goal. Good health is the goal. And this is what currently is the best treatment that is available for good health.
That's what everyone's being told, but
all the doctors are wrong.
That's what you need to accept.
Did you say that you agreed with me that our country is in a dark place right now? Did you say that? Did we?
Yes,
can we all agree
different
with that?
reasons than you think?
But to me, it's because all this garbage is being pushed on kids, and they have lost their innocence, and the schools have become.
The number one problem in schools is school shooters. The number one
I
issue
disagree.
Is kids getting murdered at school. And, whether or not a child can accept that Johnny has 2 mothers and Susie has 2 fathers or not is anywhere near as scarring as getting murdered.
So you don't think it's scarring if somebody's kid who just wants to have a normal childhood and get through, it's not difficult enough for kids now with just all the other pressures that they have, but now we have to bring all this other agenda in, bring the flags in, bring the day. I saw a video of where there was an elementary school, I think somewhere in Canada, where they were having a Pride Day for the kids. It's ridiculous. It does not need to happen. It does not. If they want to celebrate that in their own families, and that's the choice that the parents make, but the schools should not be involved in that at all.
Okay,
Kids
this
should
isn't
learn
even in
reading.
our country. How does what a elementary school in Canada is doing infringe on your rights here?
Because it's happening in our country too. It's happening in
Run into
states.
one case in Canada.
No, it's happening in states all over. If you watch the news, you will see it too, and I'm sure
Okay.
you have.
Okay, I get what you're saying, that there's just so many more treatment places nowadays, so therefore there's a whole bunch of more trans kids who probably aren't trans, and we're lying and cheating and letting them be these spoiled little puppies and do whatever they want to do and stuff, and they're gonna pay the price later. Okay, here we go. Do you know about left-handedness?
Somewhat.
Uh-huh. Did you know there was a time in our culture, and actually the world culture, where left-handed people were called blasphemous, who were called Satan, who were called mentally ill, who were drummed out of society, forced to learn how to write with their right hand?
I don't see the
No, now
connection on this.
hold on. We're going to draw the point. Are you aware of all that?
I think we've discussed this somewhat before.
Okay, well, all of that is true. When finally society realized that, look, some people are just left-handed, and they stopped putting all these pressures on people and the threats that came along with it, son of a gun, all these people who were left-handed started to come out of the closet. And so you get this on a chart, you get this spike, this huge spike of left-handed people. But then it plateaus, because that's all the number of left-handed people there are. And the exact same thing is happening with transgender science. As society has become more open and understanding and compassionate about it, more people are less frightened to death to say what they are and what they feel. Okay. I waited till I was 27 years old to transition. Do you know why? No, of course you don't. Because I was scared. Because I had a father who I thought would beat the crap out of me even at that age. Because I had a police department that would tear me apart, would beat me up in a public facility. Okay. That people were being murdered just because they were gay or just because they were trans. That any bad thing you can imagine was happening to people happened to people. And so all those folks stayed undercover because it was a question of life and death. But as society has become more open and realistic and compassionate, people feel safer in coming out, and so they do. And that includes children.
I see. I dispute that, because a child's brain, I have heard somewhere that it's not even fully developed until they're like 25 years old. So
yes, that's true, but not the areas of sexuality that we're talking about. The parts of sexuality that exist in the brain are way deep down in the pineal gland and other places, not in the cerebral cortex, which is what you're discussing.
Well, if we're so evolved, I go back to this, and everyone wants to talk about how good it is that we're so open as a society. How far away are we from pedophilia? How far away are we from accepting that?
Let's put a pin in that thought for just a moment. I've had this comment on here for quite some time. I'd like to get an answer to this one, and then we'll address that, and then we'll probably close the show at that point, because we're getting close to the hour mark. But okay, should a gay man hide his same-sex marriage from his pupils? In other words, okay, you've got a teacher. If it's a woman teacher and she's married to a man, her husband comes in and brings her lunch and she says, "Hi, honey," I'm sure you would say that's okay. But if a man is a teacher and his husband comes in and brings his lunch and he says to him, "Thank you, honey," is that okay?
I think if it's just, obviously kids are going to know that happens. If it's just in that context where he just and there's nothing sexual involved, then I'm not for gay marriage.
For kids to know that
is what they're
same-sex marriage
teaching
happens.
at those young ages. They're not teaching anatomy and physiology. They're not talking
Right.
how this is how people have sex. They're talking
Jenny,
about
uh,
that Bob
I have
has a wife or Bob has a
Jenny,
husband.
how do you know that? Because I have heard that there are school systems that are teaching kids about how to have gay sex, and I believe that that's true. And I think it's horrific.
Are
All
you
right,
also a
then show
believer
us.
in cats? Kids are claiming to be cats and demanding a litter box.
I've heard that that's happening. I've heard
That
that
But
that's
is
it's
happening.
not.
BS. That is a complete fabrication that people made up, put into
Mhm.
the news, and it hit the cycle. And the conservatives, who are always happy to figure out anything they can use to cause hate upon liberals, they grabbed it and went with it. I mean,
I don't know.
the whole the whole bathroom phenomenon of fear. Oh, I've got to fear trans people in the bathroom. By the way, you've probably pissed next to a trans person in the restroom more than once.
Well, hopefully I was in the stall, so
Well, of course you are, and so are they. Anyways, that happened about 2016 is when the rumblings of that terrible danger about trans people started to show up, and it caught like wildfire. Okay, and it started in the UK, and it took over that whole damn island, and then it spread to here, and it's taken over our whole country. Well, there happened to be these two guys who were drinking buddies who sat one day at a bar and tried to figure out something that they could say and do to freak people out, to make them hate liberals. And this is what they came up with. And they worked on how should we explain this? What words should we use? What are words going to upset people most? And they finally came up with their formula, and they went with it, and it worked. But you know what happened several years after that? They
what?
came out in an interview and admitted exactly what they have done, and that it was all 100% BS.
Interesting.
And it's in print. I can't give you the link here, but I can tell you to go look up Pink News and do a search on it.
Right. Well, here's a question that I just want to throw out for you guys. So when you say that you think that you're on board with kids being exposed to things that are sexual and being taught different things that border on sexuality with the LGBTQ and things like that, do you see where our society, I see where it is now and how things are. Can you imagine 15 years from now where we're going to be if God still lets the world go on? Because kids have lost their innocence. That's what I'm saying. I mean, it's not so much about how it impacts me, because I've been around for a bit and I feel like I can hold my own on certain things, but it's the fact that the kids, and I feel like it's saying, well, we want to be inclusive and we want to teach compassion, and we can do those things. We can teach compassion, but that doesn't mean that we have to say we just accept everything and that everything is good and right and there's no
No,
accountability.
I agree with you. We don't have to accept everything.
Right. Right. And I mean, so I'm not I feel like I'm a bad person. I'm a hater if I say, Jenny, I love you, but I don't love what you do. You know what I mean? And Granny, I love you, but I don't love that you're not a believer, So I
Okay,
don't,
what is it that Jenny is doing that you have a problem with?
Not here in the show, but in my life.
Mhm.
well, I guess I don't know what the day-to-day life is. So that would be hard for me to say. I think,
And why
I
do you
think,
make the
How
statement that
about
you
how
don't
about
agree with
the
her life?
how about one of the most popular things that people like to think about trans people is that we're out there having sex with everybody all the time.
I don't think that, you know what? I have to be honest with you. I don't know that I've ever thought that about a trans person until you just said that. I
Okay, well,
honestly don't.
that's great. Then I admire you for that. But
What,
many, many, many other people do say
what
that.
what I think is, like, with the sports and things, I think that's wrong. I think that if you're a person that was born a biological male and you transition to female and you want to play in female sports, I feel like that you're always going to have the unfair advantage. That I
And
just believe that.
that's very, very possible and very likely when you're dealing with somebody who went through male puberty. and developed as a male body. But if you take somebody who has puberty blockers, they don't hit puberty. But then you put them on hormones correct for their apparent gender, female for a little boy, estrogens, their body grows up just like a woman does. Their hips get wide just like a woman does. They grow breasts just like a woman does. They don't get a beard just like a woman. They don't change their voice just like a woman. Because all these advantages don't happen until during and after puberty.
Okay.
So I agree with you. I agree. I actually completely agree with you, and I get in trouble when I say this. I do not think that. Oh boy, I'm going to get hell for this. Trans people should be competing in sports unless they have had their complete bottom surgery, that they've been on hormones for more than 5 years, and that they've had their bottom surgeries for more than 5 years. Because I can look back in my own personal history and see how it changed me. I used to be able to pick up 350 pounds and walk with it.
Right.
And now I can't even pick up 100.
Right. Right. But see, this is the thing that I want to say too. I know we're getting close to the end of the show, but when I talked to Granny before about how are you hopeful as an atheist, and this is what I go back to is and I feel like our country and society now is more hopeless. You're talking about how open we are and how accepting and how we've made progress. But if I'm ultimately at the end of the day, if I don't have hope in a savior, and if I don't have faith in a God, what do I have? See what I'm saying? What do I have?
I was born an atheist. Everybody is. But I was raised in the extremely strict end of the Lutheran Church. Okay. And I guarantee you that for my entire childhood, I prayed to God to fix me. And God didn't. And so when I reached about 15 years old, I said some rude things and moved out away from the church.
Right.
I don't see myself as having no hope, because I have far more hope as an atheist than I ever did as a believer. When I was a believer, I thought that life was all about preparing for the afterlife, and I had hope for an afterlife. But for my life here on earth, I just wanted to be dead so I could be with God. I had a very empty life as a believer.
And you don't feel that your life is empty now and hopeless and
Oh, not
meaningless.
at all. My life is not hopeless and empty at all.
And you
I
don't
have
think
5
you don't think you will
grandchildren
have a
that I
judgment.
love.
You don't think you
I
will have a
have
judgment day where you will meet God. You don't think that's ever going to
No,
happen.
of course not, because there is no God. Why would I think I'm going to meet a God when there is no God?
If there is a God, that means there has to be an Easter bunny, a tooth fairy, the great pumpkin, Santa Claus, ghosts, goblins, and all sorts of other things that do not have any
So
proof that they
do you
exist, just like God.
you think that makes you sound more intelligent to me than I sound when you say
Where
that
are you
I
getting
believe
that
that and
from?
you don't? That's the perception that I get, is that people that say that, they think that they're so superior in their intelligence that, like, well, you would have more proof, or you would have this, or you would have that. I have
The
faith.
reason we sound that way is because we have to face a world that is telling us all the time, every day, every minute, that we are wrong for being atheists, that we're going to go to hell and burn. Okay. And it's rude as all get out for people to talk that way about me or anybody else.
I would not
Okay.
wish that for anybody.
Okay, that's you. But the whole of your religion does.
Well, I will say to you that I think there are certain people, and this is very unfortunate, that sort of do take a delight, and they're like, well, even amongst just branches of religion, like if you're not in the same, my religion's better than yours, and you're going to go to hell, and I'm not. I do think there are certain people that have had that attitude, and I think that's very, very unfortunate, because that's certainly not going to, win anyone over by any means.
I would agree. By the way, do you know how many religions are active in the world today?
I would hate to guess. I know there's a bunch, but I know a lot of people don't go to church anymore, but there's still a lot of religions.
I think the last count was somewhere around 2,700.
Wow.
And every one of them says, we're the right religion, you're not.
No, I get it. No, I get it. And I've struggled with that too. And I've struggled with, if you have certain cultures that aren't exposed to the knowledge, how are they to be saved when others have grown up with it? I mean, I have a lot of questions like that. I have many
So
philosophical questions and
do,
many things that I don't understand and will never get an answer to in this lifetime.
do you think at this point you and I could agree that we both see atrocities in religion that need to be worked out and understood?
Absolutely. We both see atrocities in religion that need to be worked out and understood. And we probably both see atrocities in society itself that need to be worked out and understood.
Yeah, I sure do.
And I wish that, I do wish that the world could be, that we could be more joined than everything is so apart and everyone's so, seems to have hate for each other. And, that's like I said, if I'm a Christian and I'm hating, how can I really be a Christian? If I'm a Christian and I don't have compassion, I can have compassion, but I can still disagree with you, and that doesn't make me a bad, evil person. I love you,
Mhm.
but I don't agree with,
Well, I love you, but I don't want you to be able to have health care is not I love you. It's I don't really
depends
love
on
you.
depends on your definition of health care.
Well, when it's in agreement with what the vast majority of doctors, and I know you think the vast majority of doctors are all out for money and they don't really care about health care, which to me makes absolutely no sense.
Our
Um,
world doesn't make sense.
okay. We are out of time, so I'm going to go ahead and stop it here.
May I just say one closing
Yeah, go
thing?
ahead, Jenny.
Um, Karlana,
Yes.
I first of all, I have enjoyed speaking with you tonight very much.
Thank you. I
I
was
love the
kind of,
back and forth, and
yes, I
it's
was kind of
stimulating.
concerned about you at first. You sounded like you were down. So I
Well,
hope I haven't.
I have always been a fireball, let's say that, and I've been in politics since Bobby Kennedy's days. Okay, and so I get fired up real easy, and I try to control myself, and I think I did actually fairly well tonight. I didn't call you any names or anything like that, and I just want to let you know that I respect you for what you believe. Okay, if you want to be a Christian, be a Christian. I hope it brings you great happiness. I hope that it makes you feel better about your life, and that you have a reward coming at the end of it. However, I also want you to understand the rest of the world enough to know that you deserve that much we deserve that much respect to us too, that we're entitled to not be a Christian, to not believe that there's anything at the end of life. Okay? And hold on. Okay. And one of the only ways that we can achieve that is through education, so that we're not responding to mythology and echo chamber media that takes a lie and goes with it for ratings. So I would love to talk to you again sometime.
I would certainly be up for that. And I've said this and I will say it again. I appreciate the respect that is given to me and the opportunity that is given to me. So that in itself, I feel like it's a step in the right direction. Whether we're always going to continually disagree on issues is another matter, but I appreciate the opportunity to be here today.
Well, one last thing: peace,
Okay.
love, dove, and don't get caught.
Okay. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you, Karlana, I'm sorry. Next week on the show, my guest will be Kay Rageous, and that should be a lot of fun. The video that I just released on Colin, who can't tell the difference between love and hate. If you haven't watched that yet, please give that a view. And Jenny, thank you so much for joining me and helping me out with this broadcast.
I really did enjoy this very much tonight. She's a worthy opponent in arguing.
Okay, very good. And to everyone out there, thank you for listening. Thank you for the view, and live your life.